Hello, hello, good morning, and welcome to IGF's Founders and Funders Forum Retreat, and the culmination of what can only be described as a brilliant few days here at UK India Week 23. So, how's everyone feeling? Yes, energy, that's what I want. I hear there may be a few sore heads this morning after last night's awards, but if you happen to be at the UK India Awards last night, I hope you had such a fantastic evening here at the Fairmont Windsor, honouring and celebrating the outstanding contributions of those who are really driving and pushing forward the UK-India partnership. Now, for those of you wondering who I am, and I'm going to hazard a guess here and say that is 95% of the room. My name is Lucy Hedges. I'm a technology journalist. I'm the former technology editor for the Metro newspaper in the UK. I'm someone who you might occasionally see talking tech and travel on the BBC and various tech conferences here in the UK and various parts all over the world. Now, as you can tell by our surroundings, we are doing things a little differently today. We've created this very exclusive retreat away from the hustle and bustle of city life and outside the confines of, a conventional tech conference. We're having a bit of fun today. So we're going to provide a trusted platform to explore uncharted waters for IGF in terms of format and content, and create an environment for members and you, our guests, to embrace the latest ideas, explore new perspectives, and build valuable connections. Now, inspired by the innovative and entrepreneurial spirit of our Founders Circle members, IGF Founders and Funders Forum is ultimately designed to showcase the world's top innovators, disruptors, and businesses with the potential to scale globally, some of the most prominent companies, countries, and individuals. It's also a platform for disruptors around the world to engage with India's tech ecosystem and vice versa. Now, over the course of the day, you'll experience engaging and thought-provoking conversations and open discussions on the collaborative potential of AI and the impact it's having across various sectors, the convergence of sports, media, and social networks in the tech era, and experience the very first IGF pitchers and punters. Now, this is a very rare opportunity that will see some of the most promising innovators and entrepreneurs get an exclusive opportunity to present their innovations and solutions to some of the top entrepreneurs and investors in the IGF's Founders Circle. So we'll round off the day with some inspiring stories from some Naropa fellows and boxer Mary Khan. We've got a great, brilliant lineup for you today. Now, just so you know, the day's themes will float across conversations will flow across three key themes. We've got emerging technologies, financing future tech, and inspiring journeys. So we want you to expand your network and connect with potential business partners, mentors, and advisors who can help take your business to the next level. We want you to gain insights from industry experts by liaising with like-minded individuals who are passionate about innovation and entrepreneurship. And of course, listen to their journeys and benefit from their experiences in this intimate, private setting. Now, just so you know, guys, this is not a conference. It's about networking. It's about sharing ideas. Now, as far as I know, there are quite a few accountants and money people in the room, but this is not a conference for accountants or bean counters. This is not your average tech conference. We're here to have some fun, like I said, and we're in a nice location. It's a beautiful day, and we're here to connect, share ideas, and generally just have a bit of fun and share some expertise. So, on that note, are you ready to kick things off with our first session of the day? Yeah. All right, it's all about AI and humans and exploring the collaborative potential. Now, unless you've been living under a rock for the past few years, you know that AI has become a driving force across various sectors. It's one of the most rapidly evolving technologies, and it's dramatically reshaping how we work, communicate, and innovate. And it's complementing and enhancing human capabilities in ways that make the old school science fiction films seem eerily prescient today. Now, historically, when machines and humans have collaborated, the increase in productivity has created prosperity, it's created jobs and new sectors all over the world. Now, AI systems can assist humans by augmenting their capabilities and improving efficiency. However, it is also incredibly important to address the potential challenges and risks associated with AI and human collaboration, and discuss, of course, where we're all headed with AI. And that's exactly what our first panel discussion is all about. So I'd like to welcome to the stage my lovely panelists. We have Alec Boere from AI Automation at Infosys Consulting, Dr. Marsha, Quallo-Wright Deputy Director for Critical National Infrastructure at the National Cybersecurity Centre in the UK. We've got Sachin Duggal, CEO and Chief Wizard for Builder.ai, and one of my favourite job titles in the world. And Uday Nagaraju, Founder and Director for AI Policy Labs. I'm going to park here. How are we doing, guys? We okay? Good.
Yeah, good.
Excellent. So we're going to have a discussion on AI. How we move the dial on the debate. Are we asking the right questions about what AI can do for us? Is the term AI now out of date? So I'm going to start with a quote from Dame Wendy Hall. Now, she's a professor of computer science at the University of Southampton and executive director of the Web Science Institute. Now, she says there is a significant perception problem surrounding AI. In the media, AI is often depicted as a Terminator-type robot that's male and aggressive, but a lot of AI is digital. You don't actually see how it works, and that is part of the problem. So for those of you that don't know, it's called The Creator, new Hollywood blockbuster that's out in September. So the reason why I wanted to play that, because this is an example of one extreme, fear, apocalyptic, this kind of dystopian future with AI. But on the other hand, we've got, happy human collaboration. So what I want to know is, are we asking the right questions? Is there enough kind of nuance in the debate? And what side of the debate are you on? And anyone can jump in with that first.
Well, I mean, I've been working in AI solidly for the last 7 years, and I think certainly the rhetoric has changed with regard to obviously ChatGPT, sort of bringing it to the masses. But there are so many advantages in terms of what this technology can do, and obviously it's entwined with everything we are doing. Your smart mobile phone, so that it's already in and around us, and obviously certainly with some of the aspects where people are using digital assistants in their homes, and then suddenly finding out that they're getting adverts with regard to there are those aspects which obviously create a bit of a negative picture, but really it can help people be more successful in their study. It can help reduce fraud. It can help really help you as an individual in terms of achieving your goals and what you want to do. So I think there's a lot of benefits.
Yeah, certainly. Absolutely. And do you think that negative side, kind of the stigma attached to AI, is kind of maybe stealing the spotlight a little bit over the advantages and some of the advantages that you mentioned? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are things we need to be mindful of, certainly, and especially when people are developing AI. I mean, I guess there's three core components. You've got the data, you've got the algo, and then you've got the human. And if you can manage those things appropriately, or what that expected outcome will be, and what the deviation from that outcome is, then you can control actually what we're trying to achieve. But really there is, I mean, in organisations and enterprises, yes, they want to cut costs, want to drive more revenue. It's certainly an avenue for doing that and driving that efficiency, better customer experience, better customer service.
Yeah.
I think you have to take this slightly more philosophically. This technology has been around for a decade. You've obviously got advancements in GPU, compute, data. It's been incremental improvements. So then you have to ask yourself, why did we wake up in November and have mass hysteria?
Yeah.
We woke up in November and had mass hysteria because it felt like talking to your mom. Because the anthropology of the system was it looked like WhatsApp. The second thing you had is you've sort of seen it does this local echo, right? It does the ... typing. Doesn't need to do the ... It actually has the answer in a split second. So the response is being slowed down. So my argument, I think, so why we're seeing this sort of sudden rush of hysteria is we nailed the user interface.
Yeah.
Up till now, the user interface to AI were complex canvases, writing code, green text on a black screen. That was sort of the way of the world. And now it's WhatsApp. And the reason I say that is because I think the UI and all the terminology around it is highly misleading. It does not hallucinate. It's just a statistically improbable result. Hallucination is a human concept. But the more we persist on using human concepts on an algorithm that is not intelligent, it can just predict the next word. It just has a much higher degree of predicting the next word. The more confusion we cause. And so you then have to ask yourself, okay, well, if that's the case, where exactly are we from a linear algorithm through to Terminator?
Yeah.
And if you imagine the parallel to that is broadband, we just about got to 56.6 kbps. That's where we are. Well, the perception is because, unlike dialing up to the internet when, you remember when AOL came in, AOL made it really simple. But AOL didn't invent the internet. But suddenly people woke up and they said, I want to go on AOL, not I want to go on the internet. And so you suddenly had like a brand that trumped technology. And so I think those are really important things to recognize, and that hopefully dials away the hysteria that it's going to take my job. And so now you look at the flip side of it. In any professional industry, let's talk about coders and developers, you have 500 and something million developers worth of demand today. It is increasing exponentially. You have about 45 million developers in the world. And if you discounted developer to engineer, you're probably at sub 5 million. We don't have enough people to produce the software we need. We don't have enough people to do the marketing we need. We don't have enough people to do the legal work we need. We don't have enough people. You sort of see the pattern here. And so if you can create co-pilots that effectively power human ingenuity, I think that's a really important facet we're missing. And we're making this leapfrog jump to that it's going to do everything. And I give you, I'm sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but I give you a couple of really story-like examples. Some of you heard me say this before, but I'm fascinated with the turmeric problem. And so you have data scientists working at Imperial College, UCL, building algorithms for some big US company. The data is being labeled by someone in the Far East, maybe it's in the Philippines. And someone labels turmeric. Great, it's an ingredient, or whatever it is. And now you have someone talking to Sydney or Bard and saying, what do you use turmeric for? Well, that's a really difficult question, because if you're in California, you put it in a latte. If you're in India, you put it in a curry. If you're in Vietnam, you use it in anti-inflammatory. And so that's a really trivial example. You go one step further. I'm going to push the limits of everyone's patience now, but imagine trying to teach the British Empire or American independence to 3 different kids. New York, London, Mumbai. There is no single perception of the truth. And the reason I keep sort of striving towards this and why this is like 56.6 is we haven't invented broadband yet in this world. And to invent broadband, there's only one point in history that to me resembles what we're seeing now. And you could argue it was the beginning of the Renaissance, but really it's when Da Vinci was around, because you had philosophy, you had art, you had literature, you had architecture, you had single minds that were multidisciplinary. This is no longer a computer science problem. This is not a political problem. This is so broad stroke.
I think that there's certainly more of a push that needs to be bringing those angles into what is being designed in terms of these systems. You've all seen the Charlie Brooker Black Mirror series. I think where you're looking at that, if you're kind of considering any of those type of systems, and like co-piloting or having your own personal AI, this is going to be starting to be more transformational with regard to the fact that actually it's moving it from more of a vertical focus to more of a horizontal focus. You've got AIs helping different elements to make sure that it's going away from that challenge with regard to it doesn't know where those ingredients are going to be used, but. I think there are things that we need to be cognizant of, especially when you're delivering these solutions and taking things like the third iteration theory. Okay, how does this work? How does that work? And you've certainly seen it in Black Mirror when suddenly it all goes, awfully. But it's it's kind of considering that, and especially sort of bringing in that kind of critical ethics training with regard to people in terms of how we deploy this. But the main challenge is, from a media perspective, is really the awareness of really what it is and how. We can leverage this technology
and what it can't do.
So
I'd take a step back and start begin to even question why we need AI. And we can't stop AI, but why we need AI. In the current climate, if we see in terms of economy, like UN Sustainable Development Goals, the finance gap was 2.5 trillion before COVID. If you see just after COVID, it's gone up to 4.2. I don't know the latest figures; they haven't released it. Now that is huge. For those who don't know about sustainable development goals, it's just every aspect of development, from gender to health to everything. So and we need to achieve that by 2030. Well, we're just 7 years away. There's huge gap there. AI and innovation, other forms of innovation, is where we can utilize and we can address this finance gap. So that is where I see kind of a benefit of utilizing these technologies. Now, the questions have always been there. In terms of people losing jobs, so the workforce, they were there even from the second and third industrial revolution. These questions have always been there. But what kind of makes it unique in the fourth industrial revolution is just a very trivial example I would take. Like in the second or third industrial revolution, if there was a new mechanical appliance that was invented, say in Bletchley in United Kingdom, for it to be used in a village called Shanigaram in India, it would have taken a couple of decades for it to be used, right? And then on top of that, if they want to do an incremental innovation on that was next to impossible. But now, if say for example an innovation is done, say need not be just in the UK, it could be anywhere, and then on top of that, incremental innovation can happen exactly immediately in any part of the world, which kind of makes it at a rocket pace. So that gives us huge opportunity, but at the same time some challenges, which you've been alluding to as well, like the privacy, security, safety, and ethics.
Sorry.
I think I'll come at this from a slightly different perspective from my colleagues here, because my day job is working on kind of resilience and security, like preparing for bad things to happen, like in the movie. That's like my day job. But that doesn't mean that I think that I think about AI and think immediately about the dangers and these kind of like Black Mirror-esque examples. And I was really kind of reassured by what you said about where we are in the stage of development of AI, because there are huge opportunities and we need this new technology. That's wonderful. It's going to help us kind of innovate and do all of the things that we need to do where we've got massive skills gaps and not enough people. But at the same time, there are risks and we have to manage them. Because we haven't kind of developed broadband yet, we've got a huge opportunity to kind of bake in the security into the system, and that's what we need to do. We don't need to kind of stop this, we don't need to halt it, we don't need to be scared of it. We need to understand it, understand the risks, and build security in. We know, we've learnt the lessons of developing the internet and kind of now spending all of our time trying to kind of build all of this kind of resilience back in. So we need to develop this in a way where it's secure by design, but I also want us to think about resilience by design. Resilience and security aren't the same thing. Security is a part of resilience. And so if we're building kind of AI into critical systems, what are we going to do when it goes wrong? We need to have ways that we can manage without it, that are built in, that are practiced, that we've checked. And I think if we're able to do those things, if we're able to have a really open and honest conversation about the risks and how we're going to manage them, then we can kind of reap all of the wonderful benefits that everyone else has spoken about, because it's exciting, right? The world is changing. And that's great. We just need to do it in a safe and kind of resilient way.
Yes.
And I think it goes down to follow from your point, right? You've always had the sort of the three architectures of it: the human in the loop, the human above the loop, the human well away from the loop. And I think you've got to be very clear on where you use the third one. So if you're doing drug discovery, basically you cannot compete with an LLM. It's just for the simple reason that it can absorb so many disparate content pieces and generate patterns. But ultimately, the human then needs to review the pattern and say, oh, actually, those two things don't work together. And I think that then the second is, again, we're so early, but as we think about regulation, you have this really big issue, and we've seen this. This is the trifecta, right? So we have cloud. Cloud was the first time critical infrastructure in countries became controlled by 3 companies in the world, all American. There's a pattern here. Then we had social media, controlled by 2 companies in the world, all American. There's a pattern here. The third one is AI. And we haven't yet made the mistake of letting it be controlled by 2 companies in the world or 3 companies in the world that are American, even though British scientists are behind it. And so the key here, though, is unlike the other 2, which were invisible or noisy, this shape shifts how civilization works. And I give you the example of the fact that there's not one single side of truth. In today, algorithms associate volume with affirmative accuracy. But actually, intellectual accuracy is far superior to affirmative accuracy. You know, you may have someone that has a really small view, but they're Einstein, right? And their view is actually more powerful than everyone else that thought, you know, for example, the days when everyone thought the world was flat. There was one person that thought it was a sphere. And you don't want to lose that in the design, and that's why we're very early.
Yeah. So there's this huge potential, it's like you say, shape this technology, and we need to get it right, because, you know, the consequences could be quite terrible. So I want to talk about regulation for a bit. You know, Sam Altman recently, you know, the creator of ChatGPT, recently called on US lawmakers to regulate artificial intelligence. So I want to ask, what trends do you guys see in AI that can or will have an immediate impact on the policy space?
So, sorry, no, go ahead.
I mean, I think obviously there's a big, you know, when you start to talk about this kind of subject, you talk to people about what you do as a job, and I've been doing in this job for a long time. The big thing that comes up is, okay, so this is going to take me out. What jobs are we going to have? We even had a child come to me and almost in tears going, so what I'm going to do, because he's been looking at TikTok and but I think really, you know, there is not going to be enough people to go and do the jobs that are being created. Obviously, there's going to, you know, you can see there's a crunch in terms of what's happening in China, but I think really, I guess if we have a core understanding in terms of the essence, as I mentioned earlier, that those three kind of dimensions, the data, the algo, and really the human, because obviously there's an element of bias in terms of whatever the expected outcome of what we're doing, what you're using in AI for. I think you can like look at it in that regard, and that is logical. That's based on maths, and it's, you know, you can't. But I think certainly the aspect where you mentioned earlier, we're going to sociologists and psychiatrists into that mix to make sure that we're kind of thinking about the aspects and what we are thinking the expected outcome will be from this AI to actually what it is, and making sure that you innovate on that, because the first iteration is going to be, well, okay, this is what it is, and it's going, and you've got to keep on keeping a track on it over those different iterations to see where it really does go, because yes, we're in broadband. Then we're getting up to fibre. It's like whoa, you know, and having those controls, and I guess that's really where that sits from a policy regulation perspective, making sure we have those controls.
You're right.
But we can't stifle the innovation. I mean, as a country, UK and in India, you need to innovate in this space. Otherwise, we get left behind the Americans. But
Well, look, I think the other thing to keep in mind is the world's population is aging.
Yeah, completely.
And so if you're at the peak of the curve, and then the next generation is a smaller trough that's going to follow, you need to make sure that we've got our stuff in gear to be able to deal with that. And I go back to the example of where we are from a timeline perspective. Imagine a young child. The parents control the information access to the child, to a 3-month-old or a 6-month-old. The parents teach them values. Be nice. Be nice means don't hit your brother with a baseball bat. Don't bite the teacher. Say please and thank you. But the way we're building models right now, we're building a 3-month-old baby that has access to the world's information, and it has like 30 rules. Like, don't pretend to be the devil. But it has no concept of creating rules on its, and that becomes more problematic when the elders become older. And then I'd say the second thing is that, you know, as amazing as human beings are, we are the easiest species in the world to manipulate, because we basically run on 4 hormones or 4 chemical reactions. And if a machine can figure out, like you did with the BlackBerry red dot, the red light, and we become addicted to that. You know, Facebook likes, we become addicted to that. So you kind of see that if a machine figures out what our feedback loop is, that's really where the problems start to kick in.
Anyone got anything to add?
Just to add to that, in terms of, I mean, the aging population, I mean, with developments in AI, and I hope the lifespan will also increase. But now, in terms of the regulation, I think the regulation needs to be at a stage where innovation is not stopped. That is that is definitely important, and it has to ensure the innovation is there, but at the same time, so it has to be anticipatory, as proposed by one of the sandboxes and all that, as proposed recently by FSA or someone. But really, regulating AI is like regulating, let us say, water, or regulating air. That's not possible. You know, we can regulate the way it's made, or we can regulate the usage of it.
We can regulate the checks and balances that organisations need to do, and I think that's the priority. I mean, it's kind of, you know, as you're saying, when is it going to start to understand the behaviours to just make sure it's doing whatever that company has created that AI to do. And I think, you know, you've seen with what the impact that social media had, and that just, you know, slowly bubbled up, and then suddenly, oh my goodness, it's changing, you know,
Yeah.
perception,
and you have this
and that
information.
algorithm sits behind it to go and feed that engine. Oh, I like this, you know, and that's AI that's behind that. But I think it's being, you know, there's a lot around, I guess, the transparency, but also like explainability. But you know, but then there are challenges when you look at.
But I think the security point is, and this is the key, and I push back. I don't think it's like regulating air. I don't think it's like regulating water. I don't think it's like regulating the prison system, because you have a massive information paradox, right? There are about 500 experts in the world in AI. With the most politest thing, none of us are in that 500 group. Yet you have 100,000 people claiming to be experts, trying to define policy, being in the room. Neither do they come from the arts or from philosophy or from literature or from architecture. And so you have a massive information paradox where we're making decisions, you know, in somewhat of a vacuum, without really understanding the security implications, without understanding, you know, connecting the brain, the nervous system, and the muscle is a bad idea, because that movie becomes reality at that point. And so regulation here is actually about bringing the right people to the room. That takes into account both the national sovereign basis, but also the global basis.
And we need to not be scared of regulation. I think sometimes
absolutely.
regulation gets a bad rep, but actually it's just about the guardrails, right? And we identify the things that we really care about, the things that are important, and then we regulate to protect them.
Yeah.
And think about our critical national infrastructure. It's heavily regulated because we care about it. And then the use of AI within those sectors would be regulated as part of that kind of regulation for safety and security of supply. That's, is kind of part of a normal pattern, but we do have to get it right and not be scared of it, because it's just a really important part of kind of us being able to innovate and being able to maximize our usage of AI.
I mean, it's a similar conversation that probably happened when people discovered nuclear, and obviously that film kind of highlighted it. But it's what could happen, and what are those things that could happen? And I think certainly when some of our teams we call it sort of critical ethic training. But that's focused on data sciences. But I think but that was led by a sociologist, and you need to. I think it certainly is paramount actually when you're thinking about that from a policy perspective, is have different expertise in the room as opposed to some computer scientists who are thinking about actually how can I optimize this algo.
Well, and I think just the sheer problem of this is that because it's the trifecta, and its propagation relies on social media, which we have no control over. Let's face it,
like it,
right? It's understood through algorithms like TikTok, knows what you like, and so keeps feeding you more. So we're starting to see the cocainism of technology effectively, right, kicking in. And that's really where the concern is, because unlike nuclear, everyone knows where the plant is. This is invisible. You just thought you were playing Candy Crush, but you weren't.
Well, that's what I think, just the proliferation of AI in the last recent months, or, the fact it's been shoved in the spotlight. People are now realizing that AI has been here all along. The tech people know, the nerds know, but I think general Joe public really wasn't aware of that. So on the one hand, it's really good that it's really been thrust into the spotlight, but on the other hand, it's really thrown into the spotlight that, like we say, regulation really needs to be thought about. We need to think about the various sectors and policymakers and different individuals and sectors that are going to implicate and have implications for this technology in the future. So there's a lot of hard work. It's still very nascent technology. I feel like we're just at the beginning, even though it's been around for a very, very, very long time. I'm aware that the clock is flashing red at me, so my last question, keep it short and brief, guys. We've just discussed AI is evolving at an incredibly rapid pace. Where do you see, or what role do you see AI playing in the next 10 years?
Look, I think it's going to shape a new world order, if you ask me honestly. I think you're going to see countries have alliances and they will bury the hatchet on their history, because it's just so prolific, and I just think it's a new world order.
I think it's going to completely change the way that the kind of how we do our jobs, the way we go about, the things we do, social interactions. It's really. I guess we're going to have to go and evolve in terms of how that works, but I think it's going to be quite transformational. I mean, there would be roles that people do now that will no longer exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's completely changing the way we live, work, communicate, and every aspect, including the world order, is going to change. But now is an opportunity. Whoever wants to be in AI policy will be part of changing the future of the world for the next thousands of years.
Get in
it's
now.
never an opportunity like this in the last few thousand years, is what I feel. for people who want to change it.
Yeah.
I agree with my colleagues. It's going to be game changing, and we need to kind of take advantage of it in every aspect of life, and thinking about it from a national security perspective. That is a real example of where we don't want to be behind, because every other country in the world is thinking about this.
Yeah, it's a global scale.
Exactly. So we need to be there at the forefront, pushing, making use of it in a secure way, because everyone else is going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, I think that's a brilliant sentiment to end our panel discussion on. Give it up for these all knowledgeable bunch of panelists. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.